It's no secret, no matter how old you are, everybody wants to be rich, right? Despite famous teenage stars like Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus being worth close to $100 million by the time they turn 18, it's not likely that you'll become an overnight millionaire in your teens. But you do have a lot more power than you think, and the decisions that you make at a young age can be crucial in setting you on the right financial path. In this video, we'll go over everything you should be doing as a teenager to build wealth, both before and after you turn 18. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do financially as a minor, but there are some things that you can consider. First, you can find a part-time job. Even if it's just 5 or 10 hours a week, a part-time job while you're still in high school is a great way to make some extra spending money. It's also a great way to get acquainted with working for a paycheck so that your first job isn't when you're interning at some professional corporate environment where your first impression is really important. It's important to realize that working a part-time minimum wage job is not going to make you rich, no matter how much you save and invest. But it does let you get comfortable with the idea of earning, spending, and saving money, which should hopefully minimize beginner mistakes in the future when you're an adult with a full-time job. The other thing you can do as a teenager, especially if you have a part-time job, is open a bank account. Most banks will usually have some sort of under 18 bank account option, usually called a high school or minor account. Keep in mind, this will probably require that your parents have access to it in some capacity. A bank account, or more specifically a checking account, will allow your employer to directly deposit your paychecks into your account. Be sure to pick one without fees or minimum balance requirements. There are a ton of options out there, so just look around. Also, as a teenager, you're not eligible to open up your own credit card, but you can ask your parents to become an authorized user on their credit cards, if and only if they are responsible with their money. This will allow you to start building a credit history and an associated credit score, which will tell lenders in the future that you're a trustworthy borrower, allowing you to open up larger loans and apply for lower interest rates. One of the biggest factors on your credit score is the average account age, so the sooner you can start building credit, the better. This also works in the opposite way. If your parents constantly max out their cards and miss payments, that will negatively affect your credit history. So be sure to only look into this option if you know your parents are responsible with their credit cards. So as a teenager, you can get a part-time job, you can open up your own bank account, you can become an authorized user on your parents' credit cards, but the single most important thing you can do at this age is absorb as much information as you can get your hands on. This is prep time. Learn as much as you possibly can before you turn 18, because unfortunately you're pretty limited in what you can do financially as a minor. But if you're prepared, you can come out of the gates swinging once you become a legal adult. Most people take their entire 20s just to learn the basics of personal finance, but if you can start adulthood with a solid financial plan, you'll be miles ahead of your peers. And because of the power of compound growth, that means that you could potentially reach financial independence and possibly even early retirement as soon as your late 20s or early 30s. Up next, I'll cover everything you should be doing once you turn 18, so if you're still a minor, be sure to pay attention here so that you know what topics to research. And if you're enjoying this video, please consider giving it a like for the YouTube algorithm. I make videos on all sorts of personal finance topics just like this one every week, so be sure to subscribe and turn on bell notifications if you want to see more content like this. So now you're 18, the magical age at which our society has deemed you responsible enough to vote, go to war, take on hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, get permanent tattoos without your parents' permission, among many other exciting and some less exciting things. And if you're in the good old US of A, you can buy a firearm, but you can't drink a beer, because that makes sense. Whether 18-year-olds are mature enough to have all of these new responsibilities and privileges is a completely separate discussion, but the fact is our legal system has decided that once you're alive for roughly 6,575 days, you're legally an adult, and now you have access to everything that comes with that title. Because there's unfortunately very little formal education on the topic of personal finance, it's really easy to make some mistakes that can take years to undo. So to avoid that, here are 5 things that you should be doing when you turn 18 to set your financial future on the right path. First, you need to open a new checking account, even if you already have one. The account that you opened as a minor is likely tied to your parents in some way, but now that you're an adult, all of your money should be in your name and your name only. You're probably going to have to do this eventually anyway, because most under 18 accounts have a maximum age limit, so it's better to do it sooner rather than later. Some banks will allow you to convert your under 18 account to a normal account, while other banks might require that you close that minor account and open up a new one. Keep in mind here that while theoretically other adults like your parents shouldn't have access to your account because it's under your name only, there have been some cases where determined parents have convinced a teller that they need access to that account. If you have parents who you think might try to access your money once you're an adult in some way, it's better to open up a new checking account at a completely different banking institution to minimize the risk of this happening. Second, you'll want to open up a high-yield savings account. High-yield savings accounts are different than normal savings accounts or checking accounts because they give you a small return on your money, usually about 1 to 2% per year. Now, as an 18-year-old, you probably don't have a whole lot of extra money to chuck into savings, but most high-yield savings accounts have no fees and have no minimum balance. Some good ones to check out are Ally Bank, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, and Capital One Bank. And if you have a job, consider moving 5 or 10% of your income into savings every paycheck, even if it's not a huge dollar amount. At this age, your income is probably the lowest it'll ever be, so you're not going to make any meaningful increases on your net worth, even if you save 100% of what you earn. But what is important, though, is establishing good habits that will carry over as your income increases. The primary goal of your savings account is to hold your emergency fund. An emergency fund is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fund that you can dip into for any necessary, unexpected expenses, like your car breaking down or taking your dog to the vet because he ate something toxic. Having a solid emergency fund will help you avoid racking up credit card debt, which can be really hard to get out of, especially when credit cards have interest rates up to 20, 30, or even 40%. And speaking of credit cards, you should open one. Credit cards are just a financial tool, and they can be really good or really bad depending on how you use them. If you pay off your balance in full every single month, credit cards can be a great way to establish a positive credit history. I cannot stress this enough. Always pay off your credit cards in full every month. Not only are the interest rates on most credit cards really, really high, missing a payment or making a late payment can be a big red mark on your credit history that can take years to come off. Having a positive, long-standing credit history is crucial if you want to get a mortgage or a car loan one day. According to a 2018 HR.com report, more than half of employers will even check your credit history as part of the hiring process. One of the biggest factors on your credit score, aside from, of course, making on-time payments, is your average account age. So the sooner you can start establishing that positive credit history, the better off you'll be in the future when your credit starts to impact important financial and career decisions. I'm planning on making a video in the future about the best beginner credit cards, so consider subscribing if you want to know more about the different options available to 18-year-olds, but for now, just make sure to look for one that's free and has no hidden fees. If you have little to no income, the best place to start is probably with a secured credit card. This means that you'll have to put down a deposit equal to the credit limit, usually about $200 to $500. The credit limit is just the maximum amount you can charge to the card before paying it off. This money is refundable, and it just acts as insurance for the bank in case you end up not paying off your card, because you have no credit history to prove that you're a trustworthy borrower. After a while of on-time payments, usually about a year or so, you can look into getting your deposit back and upgrading to an unsecured credit card, which has no deposit requirements. As your credit history improves, banks will typically offer larger and larger credit limits, sometimes without you even asking. And not only are credit cards great for establishing positive credit history, they also come with some pretty sweet benefits that debit cards just don't have. Many credit cards offer points or cash back on purchases, or a combination of both. Depending on the card, points can sometimes be redeemed for a lot of different things, but most people typically redeem them for travel, so things like airplane tickets or hotels. Usually these benefits are worth anywhere from 1 to 5% of the amount that you've charged to the card, which isn't huge, but it definitely adds up. Finally, credit cards are a really important tool for preventing fraud, or at least minimizing the impact of it. If someone steals your debit card information, they could take out money directly from your bank account. A bank might compensate you, but the fraud investigation process can take weeks, leaving you with an empty bank account and bills racking up. But if they steal your credit card details, it's technically the bank's money, at least until you pay off the card. So banks are usually a lot more motivated to investigate the fraud quickly, and you have a lot more time to resolve the issue before money is taken out of your account. Credit cards also allow you to do something called a chargeback when you purchase something faulty and the seller isn't responsive. If the bank rules in your favor, they'll compensate you for the money that you spent. So when you turn 18, apply for your own credit card, even if that means it's just a little secured card. At this age, this is one of the best ways to establish a positive credit history, so long as you always pay the full balance each month. Next, you'll want to open a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account that virtually anyone in the US can open as long as they earn income. And if you live in a different country, there's probably something pretty similar available to you. The money that you contribute to a Roth IRA grows tax-free, and you don't pay any taxes on the money that you take out during retirement. I know what you're thinking. I just turned 18. Why should I care about retirement? Well, as of 2020, the maximum amount that you can contribute to a Roth IRA each year is $6,000. That's really not a whole lot of money if your goal is to save and invest enough to live off of during retirement. So you should take advantage of this tax advantage space as soon as possible. Because of the magic of compound growth, the sooner you start investing, the faster that money will grow. If you contribute $6,000 to your Roth IRA each year starting from age 18 all the way up to age 65, you'll retire with just over $2 million saved for retirement, all of which is completely tax-free. Even if you're not able to max your Roth IRA at this age, because let's be real, few people do, just set a realistic goal based on your income, like $100 a month, and then just slowly ramp it up. Like I said before, the main objective at this age is to set up good habits that will continue to carry over as your income increases. If you want to know more about Roth IRAs, I have a video that covers them in greater detail and goes through step-by-step how to open, contribute, and invest in one. So I'll link that up here if you want to watch it. Finally, at this age, you might choose to continue your education by attending college. This topic really deserves to be its own entire video, so I'll expand more on it in the future, but your goal really here is to just minimize the amount of student debt you're taking on as much as possible. Massive student loans can be a huge weight on your shoulders and delay your financial plans by years or even decades, especially in your 20s when you should be focused on investing and saving for your first few big purchases like a house or a wedding. Luckily, despite the insane tuition prices in the US, there are ways to minimize that debt if you're open to exploring alternative options. Firstly, in-state public schools are usually much cheaper than out-of-state private schools. You could also consider going to a community college for the first 2 years and then transferring to a 4-year university. Be sure to apply for every scholarship you can get your hands on, both directly with universities and with other organizations, even if they're really small, because they all add up. You could even consider going abroad for your degree, which is actually what I did. I have a video about how attending university in the UK was actually cheaper for me than going to an in-state public school, which I'll link up here if you want to check it out. Lastly, remember that college is not mandatory and it's not always the best option for everyone. Trade schools can be a fraction of the price of universities, and a lot of trades like plumbers or electricians are actually compensated a lot better than most people think. Some career paths don't even require any formal education, especially certain sales jobs like real estate agents. Whether you're still a minor or over the age of 18, the best piece of advice I have if you want to set up a solid financial future is to never stop learning. This channel can serve as a great resource to learn about the personal finance topic as a whole, as well as other topics like financial independence and early retirement. There are also 1,001 different financial books out there that you can read, most of which are probably available at your public library for free. I'm also a big fan of passive learning. Find ways to incorporate learning into your daily entertainment. What social media platform do you browse most often? Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok? In today's age, you can find communities on virtually every one of these social media platforms that covers personal finance in some way. Just by scrolling through social media, you'll be exposed to a ton of posts that you would not have otherwise actively sought out. So that can be a great way to passively absorb information without even realizing it. If you guys learned something from this video, please consider giving it a like for the YouTube algorithm. I make videos on all sorts of personal finance topics just like this one every week, so be sure to subscribe and turn on bell notifications if you want to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next week.